Hello, my friend. Welcome to this week's episode on the Happiness Happens podcast. Before we go any further, I need to share something really exciting with you today. We have officially surpassed the 200 episode mark on the Happiness Happens podcast. I cannot believe that we are 200 episodes into this show. And when I first started this podcast back in 2019, all I wanted to do was help one person feel less alone. And I just wanted one other person in this world to feel like they were heard and understood and supported and loved and cared for and all of the above. So I showed up week after week in the beginning of this podcast to share with you some things that I was learning as I was going through the very beginning of my dark night of the soul, self-love journey, healing journey, and which was also the crux and the start of this podcast. So 200 episodes feels like a massive milestone over here because that's 200 conversations that have impacted and changed someone's life significantly. And honestly, 200 episodes of something that I never thought that I would be able to do ever in my entire life. Starting my podcast for me was a journey of growth and exploration and welcoming in change and elevating who I could be in this world and on this planet and it taught me how to really tap back into what is it that I want for my life when I'm here on this earth. And how do I find the courage and the confidence to do that every single day? And what I've learned along the way is a lot of the times we block the things that we know we're going to love or know we're going to love to do out of fear and out of just genuine worry that maybe someone will look at us differently and someone will judge us and someone will, think that we're too different or changing too much or that we're too weird with what we're sharing or that it's like kind of like that idea of like, why is this person doing this? Like, it's so strange that they're doing that. And what I've realized in this whole process is this, okay? We literally live on a spinning globe in the middle of nowhere, okay? And when I think about this, and anytime that I get overwhelmed, anytime that I just feel like I'm not good enough or that I'm not doing enough or that I'm not doing, all of the things that I should be doing every single day. And maybe I add in extra drama to the story, and maybe I add in extra chaos to the story, and maybe I add in all of these different things and tricks and maybe I'm playing into the stories that my mind is telling me. But when I really sit back and think about it, and when I really pull back the drama out of the story and zoom out from a very far out lens, I remind myself that we are literally spinning on a globe in the middle of nowhere. And when you think about that, in some ways, it can make you feel a little insignificant, a little small, a little bit like, what is the purpose to all of this? Because I know I felt like that for quite a few years, actually. I felt like that. And then I started to realize, but what if that allows us to have infinite possibility? What if that allows us to have infinite abundance into every area of our lives that we want to explore? What if it means that every single goal that we have is not off the table, but is actually on the table and ours for the taking? What if the fact that we are in a massive universe with so much magic that we get to show up in ours every single day? And that has been a massive journey to learning and to understanding and to tapping into the stories that I had about myself, about who and how I was, and the stories that I know you carry about yourself, about who and how you are, right? We live our lives through the lenses of other people. And I think that we don't all get to go on this journey of self-exploration and self-healing, because I don't think that's everybody's purpose here on earth, right? We're all here for a different purpose. We're all here to serve a different mission. We're all here to be in a different space, in a different headspace. And, we're all meant to advocate for different things. And that's when we get diversity in ideas. That's when we get solutions. That's when we get kindness. That's when we get love. And I know there's a lot of other really bad things that come with that too. I understand this. And when we have all of these differing ideas and all these differing opinions and different ways of being and different ways of living, I think it can be really easy to be judgmental of one another. And I think it can be really easy to point blame and not be understanding or think that our way is the only right way. But one thing that I've learned in this last few years, especially embarking on this healing journey and understanding who I am more as a person and what do I stand for and what do I love, what do I not love, what do I need in my life, what do I not need in my life, what relationships are time to go and which ones are time to bloom, right? The more that I get to know myself in this world and the more you get to know yourself in this world, the more you get to tap into your innate self and your inner confidence and your inner mission and your inner purpose. Because again, like I was saying before, we are all here for a different purpose, right? And when we get put on this earth, we are here to live out, this is just my own personal belief, we're here to live out the mission that we are sent here with. I truly believe that. I think that we are all here to do different things, and there's a reason for that. So what happens is over the years is our parents, our loved ones, our friends, our families, bosses that we have, places that we work at, colleagues that we have, people we meet in the street, have judgments and assumptions and ideas about who we are as human beings. And it's our responsibility, I think, especially if you're on a healing journey, to start to take those stories and to decode them and to sort of break them apart bit by bit so that we don't have to live by them every single day. Because I'll tell you, when I started doing this work, there was a lot of stuff that people said about who and how I was that were not true. Those things were not necessarily true at all, in my opinion. And there was a lot of things. I remember when I was in high school, there was someone who was a little bit older than me who used to call me a dumb blonde all the time. And I honestly never was insulted by it because I was like, okay, like whatever, enjoy, like love that for you. If you want to call me that, then great. But I used it as fuel to sort of prove that no, I'm not. But then I think what happens with that is even if we don't necessarily believe the story that someone is saying about us, about who we are, what I think happens is we internalize the opposite version of the story. And then we take that opposite version and we try so hard to lean into that part of the story. And so even though there were a lot of things that were said about me when I was younger that I don't necessarily agreed with, I chose to believe the opposite side, the flip side, and then dive in on that and be like, well, no, I'm not like that because I'm like this. So at the beginning of this podcast, it was a lot of taking all of these different pieces and decoding them and trying to understand whose story was true for me and what do I do with this information now. And what it led me to was this, and I want to share this with you today because I think that this is a super important exercise for everyone to do. When you're younger, okay, people tell you, you need to understand your values and, you have to expand your mind and learn new things and all this stuff, right? Well, I never really understood what the purpose of having values in life were because I didn't see how they could fully play into my life every single day. And I decided to go down this road of uncovering what are my values and why is it that I create all this stuff in my life, like this podcast, my production business, the relationships that I have in my life, the output that I put into the world, the energy that I put into the world, right? Why? And where does that come from? So I will say this. I learned about myself this year, again, that a couple things. What I learned is this, okay? The healing journey, it never ends. You start on this journey, and in every single layer that you peel back, you uncover a different level to your healing, a different thing that you need to tap into now and start to decode and start to understand. And for me, that looked like understanding, how I suddenly woke up one day and realized that I was a more anxious person, or that I had a more anxious attachment style in general, or that I had a fear of failure or a fear of being alone, or, all these different things that I had. And I was like, man, like thinking to myself, I'm like, wow, like, on the outside, it's someone who's like looks so bubbly and so happy and so all of the things. But on the inside, I was so confused because I was like, why do I have all of these inner fears? And like, where do they come from? So the first part of the work is understanding these stories, understanding what's true for you. Then the second part of the work is taking these stories and redefining what they mean for you, right? Taking them and giving them a new meaning, taking them and letting them go. Because there's some stories that we have that we hold on to that we do not need to hold on to, that we are able to just literally take place and let it go. Okay. So the fourth thing that I sort of want to talk about here too, that plays into this really nicely, are your values. And your values, in my opinion, are really important to understand, especially on a human level, because we need to understand what is important to us and how do our values align with the people who are in our lives, right? When we have these differing values, then we have different opinions because we value different things, right? No two people are going to have the exact same values. But where is it that you can find a little bit of understanding and empathy for somebody else who thinks differently than you, somebody else who has different values than you? And this truly has everything to do with your own internal emotional awareness and your own internal emotional availability. If you are not someone who is emotionally aware, you're going to listen to this right now and you're going to be like, this woman is literally crazy. She has no idea what she's talking about because I have no tolerance for anybody else's stuff, like whatever. And that's fine. And that's totally cool. And I understand. And at the same time, I think that given we are on a big, massive globe in the middle of nowhere, it's more peaceful for you when you can look at other people and extend empathy, even though you don't agree, and extend compassion, even though your thoughts differ completely, and live in your values to make change in the world, in your world, right? The change that we want to make in the world around us starts with the change that we're making inside of us, period. So I'm going to ask you today to share your values with me if you know what yours are, because I can tell you mine: kindness, care, connection, freedom, peace, honesty, and authenticity. And those are the ways in which that I live my life every single day. But what I will say is I always make sure to lead with kindness, care, and connection. Those three core values are the most important core values for me. And so typically, if there's someone in my life that doesn't embody those ones as well, we probably won't get along that great because we're not going to see eye to eye on either of those pieces, right? If you're someone who's unkind, I'm probably not going to want to be around you because without kindness, in my opinion, there's no care and there's no connection. So how can you possibly have someone in your life who is unkind, right? So you start to look at your life through a different lens when you understand your own values and the things that are really important to you. And so thank you for joining me for this episode today. I wanted to pop in here and just celebrate 200 episodes with you, let you know a little bit of the things that I was working on just from like a, beginning of the podcast to now sort of journey, and all of the learnings and teachings that we have in life serve a bigger purpose. And I have some really cool guests and episodes and interviews and conversations planned for the show. So if you want to share this podcast because it's one of your favorites, wink, wink, nudge, nudge, feel free to do that on your social media and give us a tag, because honestly, we love that and it makes our day every single day. So thank you for tuning into this week's episode on the Happiness Happens podcast. I'm so grateful for you. As always, I appreciate you. I am just so honestly floored that we're at 200 episodes and I couldn't do this without you. So genuinely, thank you. 200 episodes is for you. It's for me. It is for us. And if you're new to the show, it's also for you too, because you are all what keeps me going. I hope you have a lovely day today. I will see you on the next episode. And remember that happiness happens when you're least expecting it.